Over the years, talking to my Mongolian students about their situation and relationships with animals in their country, I've become really interested in what's happening over there. I've heard so many interesting stories from my students about the life they lived in the countryside with nomadic or semi-nomadic relatives, living among hundreds of animals, perhaps even thousands. I've heard stories about long distance moving across the plains of Mongolia and horse races over 40 kilometers in distance. And also the disease burden. Mongolian livestock are tough. They can carry more parasites, viruses, and bacteria than your typical livestock animal. And I think if we look at the historical trends of population of the 5 major livestock animals in Mongolia, we can understand the story even better. So I'm going to show you here on the y-axis the range of animals from roughly around 1 to half a million of camels at the bottom, ranging all the way up to around 24 million sheep and goats. Let's look at first the long-term trends, which show sheep in the dominant position, goats in number 2, coming in around 4 million for the first half of the study period. The third and fourth most common animals to keep are horses and cattle, which both are relatively the same amount throughout the entire study period, with again camels coming in 5th. What really strikes me about this data is how it's relatively stable, showing steady numbers of something like 13 to 15 million sheep and 4 to nearly 5 million goats, around 2 to 3 million cattle and horses, and 1 million camels from the period 1970 until 1990. However, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, Mongolia's economy liberalized. It seems that farmers and herders looked to increase their goats the most, which gives us these incredible jumps in the number of goats, say in 5 to 6 year periods, where, for example, you jumped from 5 million to almost 12 million goats. That is more than a 150% increase in just about 6 years. But the most dramatic increase happened in the early 2000s, when you went from about 10 million goats all the way up to 20 or 22 million goats in just a 6-year period. And the sheep since the mid-2000s have also mirrored the number of goats. And it seems that farmers did try to increase their horses and cattle in the same period, but they also crashed around the late 90s and early 2000s, just as the goats and sheep did. So while there is a macro trend in the post-communist era to try to increase the animals, it seems like there is also a perennial trend that happens every 8 to 10 years of a dramatic decline in numbers. Now, these are most likely related to climatic factors. Mongolian winters are well known for being extremely harsh. There are also issues with drought meaning the lack of water. Well, Mongolian livestock are required to survive on their own during the harsh winters, which can see temperatures as low as minus 40 degrees centigrade, and lasting from basically November until April, when animals need to dig through the snow to find their own food. And sadly, in the worst case, like say, for example, here at the end of the 2000 and beginning of the decade of the 2010s, we could see a reduction of over 5 million sheep and 5 million goats in just a single year. I tell you this data to give you the sense of how tough animals must be to survive as livestock in Mongolia. And next time you hear about the ability of Mongolian animals to bear the burden of incredible disease, parasite, and viral bacterial load, this might give you some perspective about what it takes to be a livestock animal in Mongolia. Thank you.